Recording back on. Now, I'm thinking many of you are watching the recording because you had trouble accessing the class. I'm very sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what went wrong, but I'll figure it out so that it doesn't happen again. I hope you enjoy the recording. And if you have questions or thoughts about what you've read, do email me. Okay, so let me take a look at what Sigourney, Lydia, and Arya, what you've put down for your reactions and highlights to chapters 1 through 3 of Q for Treason. I'm enjoying this book so far. I like the adventure. Yeah, it's immediately adventurous. Sneaking out in the middle of the night, almost getting captured. I had to reread a couple parts, but still enjoying it. Yeah, you know what? There are a couple parts that are kind of confusing. And I'm wondering do you know why you had to reread? What was confusing about it? Was it that there are a lot of challenging place names that you've never heard of before that are just thrown at you? And a lot of names of characters, too. So much at once, right? And then also I think something else is challenging is we just dive right into the story. We don't get any background on who these characters are. I don't remember hearing the main character's name until about 10, 15 pages into the story. So we just dive right into the story. We don't know who Tom is. I don't think we know who the father is. Did anybody catch the father's name? I don't remember his name. I don't think it was mentioned. So we're just thrown into the middle of the river of the story and expected to swim. And that can be challenging. But I think as we've gotten into chapter 3, we're starting to be able to swim. We know more clearly who we're rooting for and who the antagonist is. So Peter and Sir Philip. All right. And then over here, I left you in suspense. You know what? I'm thinking that we might be left a lot in suspense of this story by how much action and how much pursuit and danger there is around every corner. Yeah, literally around every corner. Here comes Sir Philip Morton and a constable around the corner into the theater. Okay, it must be hard to tear down a brick wall. Yeah, I'm guessing it is, and they did it. Well, there were a lot of strong men that were doing it. What was it, 30 or 40? So I think they were able and prepared. And let me keep going here. Peter has to go somewhere else for a few months. Yeah. Just to make sure that things blow over. His mom didn't like that at all, did she? All right, here. I had trouble making out what was happening at first. So this looks like a good reaction. That looks like a good reaction. Yeah, and we talked about maybe why it was confusing. And if you want to add some more about why, I think, yeah, having not quite sure what is going on at first was what was confusing. Here's another reaction rather than highlight. So this one would go up here as well. I was a bit rusty in knowing different places, but I'm good now. A lot of places. And you know what? I don't know those places. Penrith? Cumberland? I know there's somewhere in England. I can tell Penrith is a town. Cumberland is the region. The Greta, I think that's supposed to be a stream. And if they come back up, if those place names come back up, then we'll pay closer attention to them. But there were a lot of them all at once. All right. How daring for Peter to throw the rock. Ooh. It was, wasn't it? I wonder whether he was. Did he see Sir Philip, and was he aiming at Sir Philip? Remember that part? Was he aiming at Sir Philip? Did he know that he was throwing the rock at Sir Philip? think he did, right? I think so. I want to go back and double check because I want to make sure about that. So, it was everyone for himself. Luckily for me, there were plenty of rocks heaped about the steep hillside above the road, and once among these I should be safe. I skipped into the shelter just before the cavalcade reached me. Then I was tempted by some devil I couldn't resist. I turned round with a piece of rock in my fist and shied it straight at Sir Philip. Oh. So I think he did intend to, he did see Sir Philip and threw it straight at him. So, but it seems like it was impulsive. He is. I guess that reminds me of Tarn a little bit. Philip does not sound nice. All right, I'm curious about this. This is a little bit more of a reaction to Philip, and I'm curious if there's something specific that Philip did that made you think, he doesn't sound nice. Because a lot of the things he's doing are justified, right? Men are tearing down his wall. And this boy threw a rock at him. So I'm curious, what is it that, I think I agree with you. I don't think he sounds nice, but what is it that tells us that he doesn't sound really nice? Anybody have an idea? Feedback loop here. Sigourney, I think that's a good one. He took over the land. And even though he said he had some kind of legal right, he waved some documents in Latin in front of the farmers, I think he knew that they would not challenge him in court. So it seems like he took over that land knowing that he could get away with it. And I think that's a big thing that's not so nice. Also, he's doing a lot to try to find this boy for throwing a rock at him, which is kind of mean. But I guess there's a point to it as well, because if he finds the boy, who else is he going to find? Right? The Wall Destroyers. Because then he could question the boy and ask him, and the police can question the boy. Yep. All right. Let's see. Philip came to the theater. And that was pretty dramatic when they wouldn't let him into the into the actors' room in the back while they were getting dressed, and Peter hides in that chest. Okay. So Philip even checked the theater, and wow, was that unlucky for Peter. Peter was the only person to be tracked, and he did the least. Yeah, that's true. Okay. I'm going to pause the recording here for just a moment. I'm going to check my email to see. It looks like a lot of people are having trouble. And then we're going to do the challenge questions. Okay. I see yum in the chat. Were you guys talking about food? Donuts, pancakes? I haven't had breakfast yet. And it's noon, so I need to have lunch. Don't talk about donuts. That can't be a good lunch. Oh, you know what Peter was eating that I really liked? Mutton. That sounded delicious. Some greasy mutton. All right. That's funny. They serve mutton at the theater. Okay, so I've got 3 main challenge questions for you. And I do have a quote up there. You guys see the quote? So the quote says, "I'd always wanted to see the outside world. I'd always wanted adventure. And now I was going to get it with a vengeance." Who says that quote? Yeah. So there are many different ways you can tell that this is Peter. One is from the quote itself, and he's saying he's going to have lots of adventure because that's what's happening in the story. He's leaving home, having to run away from home, run away from danger, and go into the wide world, and he's going to get adventure. But there's another way that you can tell that this is Peter. And almost any quote, you'll be able to tell that this is Peter. Anybody want to take a guess as to why? Because it has a one-letter word in it that will always tell us that this is Peter in this story. Who's the I? The whole story, if you notice, has been told by Peter, right? If you remember in the Secret Garden, there's only one chapter that where the story was told from a character's perspective. The chapter with the robin, and the robin was describing and telling the story. Here, it seems like the story is being told by Peter. All right, so definitely looking forward to adventure. Now, I've got a few names here. Peter, we know him. Oh, by the way, how old is Peter? Did we get a sense of how old he was? Yeah, is Arya right there? Yeah. Yeah, Sigourney, go ahead. Okay, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. So Tom, his older brother, is 16. Thanks for, so just a couple years older, not too much older. And then there's Sir Philip Morton. We know the new lord of the land who's come in and who's raised taxes and who's built a wall. And then Nathaniel, do you remember who Nathaniel is? Yeah, Sigourney. Yeah, 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 that pony. Of course, Nathaniel couldn't go with Peter. And then Tam Burney. I'm sorry, Tarn Burney. I don't think he played a big part, but you might remember him. Yeah, Peter's friend, that old man. I think he's an old man in Penrith, who tapped him on the shoulder, my favorite line that he said was, he was almost happy that Peter threw the rock at him, uh, because he says there would be a lot of people who would dance on Sir Philip's grave. So it seems like Peter would have a lot of friends because of what he did. And that seems like why Tarn is helping him out, telling him, don't go to Scotland, because that's where they're waiting for him. Okay, right, so I've got three questions here, and here's the first one. The wall. Why were Peter's father and other farmers, sneaking out in the middle of the night? I think we have a pretty good grasp of this, but I'd like to hear your words for this answer. Who'd like to raise their hand to share their answer? Go ahead, Arya. And can you elaborate a little bit more? Is it just because they don't like walls? Is it because they think that they are ugly in the countryside? Or
They
why?
Philip took over some of their land.
Sir Philip took over some of their land, did not ask them, built a wall so that they could not have access to the land anymore. And because the farmers don't trust the courts and think that they would lose to a powerful person in a trial, they decide they're going to tear down the wall instead of going to court. You know what my favorite part is? When the next day, when there's somebody trying to figure out who destroyed the wall, do you remember what they are going to say? Who is the person that's responsible? So they say something. Yeah, Sigourney, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't human hand. It was the devil's work that destroyed this wall. All right. Next question. Number 2. The green cap. Why must Peter leave Cumberland with all haste? What would happen if he were caught? I want to see some hands here. What would happen if he were caught? And Lydia, did you get this? Arya, what do you remember? Go ahead.
He would be interrogated and then tortured.
Interrogated, then tortured. It's funny that Peter thought, well, I probably won't be hanged. But I read some description of what would probably happen to him. You guys want to hear what would probably happen to him if he were caught? I didn't know what the exact penalty was for throwing a rock at a man, but as the man was one of the leading gentlemen in the district, I could imagine it would be something heavy. If it wasn't hanging, it might be prison, with possibly ear cropping, or nose slitting, or flogging into the bargain. Ear cropping, nose slitting, flogging. Ugh. Yeah. Okay. And the chief witnesses would all be Sir Philip's men, who would be ready to swear to anything their master said. All right. So that's the first part, the thing that would happen to Peter. Second part is, it's not just Peter that's in danger. It's his family. Because who would be maybe in even more trouble than him if Peter were caught? Right, his father. His father and his brother and the lives of 30 or 40 other farmers in the area. Because if you're caught, Peter says he would probably be talked under torture. I wouldn't blame him. But the lives of his family are in his hands now. And so his mom doesn't want to see him go, but his dad says he needs to leave. It's the best. For not just him, but for the family. All right, last question I have. What kind of boy is Peter? I saw something before. Daring is one, right? Daring is one word. What words would you use to describe Peter? Daring, adventurous, impetuous. Yeah. You know something that surprised me too? He goes to school, and is he a good student? Definitely adventurous, Sigourney. So here's something that's interesting. Yeah, might seem like a normal boy, but there's something that caught my attention that made it seem like he was maybe more educated than most normal boys. He said that there are only a few students that were older than him in the class, in the school. just a few. And those few that were older than him were going to go to the university in Oxford. And today, Oxford is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And back in this time period, it was one of the only universities in the world. So if the students that are older than him are going to go to Oxford, and there isn't anybody else that's older than him, that means he's already really bright to be in school until he's 14. Most children did not go to school at this time period until they were 14. Now the second thing is that he has an option to go to Oxford too, but he hasn't made up his mind. So it sounds like he's not just adventurous, but also really bright and knowledgeable, educated. That's interesting, Arya, and I'm wondering if there's any information in that other book about education at this time period. Okay, so I've got a super challenge to follow up here, and this is something that I like to do all the time. So does Peter remind you of any other characters we've read about? Arya, you're saying Taran? Definitely. Sigourney, why do you think Taran? What is it about Taran that Peter reminds you?
He's more daring, and he doesn't really think as much in the beginning, but it'll probably change.
That's interesting, and that's intriguing that you're thinking about how he might change as well, just like Taran changed over time. Mm-hmm. And Lydia, you're thinking Brian, and Arya, you're thinking Brian. So, Lydia, why are you thinking Brian? What is it that makes you think of Brian?
Well, Peter has to go and live on his own. Basically, he has to go and kind of run away and live on his own. And Brian had to live on his own, although he didn't run away, but he had to also live on his own.
So
and I guess Brian, I don't know.
Go ahead, Lydia. Go ahead, finish your thought. I want to hear the rest of it.
Well, Brian's situation was more serious because he was actually in the woods and there were wild animals. But still, Peter has to go and kind of live on his own with not very much money.
Yeah, without much at all. That's right. So I'm glad you described that. Use the word situation to describe the similarity between Brian and Peter. That they are on their own and basically no money, basically no food, and they've got to survive. And where there might be bears for Brian, there's Sir Philip for Peter. Now, Arya, was there something else that you were thinking of with Brian, a similarity between Brian and Peter?
They're both quite adventurous and are very I forget what it's called, but they use their surroundings wisely.
Use their surroundings wisely. Oh, resourceful? Yeah. Okay, I think I can see that. Now, think of Claudia and Jamie. Who do you think Peter is more like, Claudia or Jamie? Yeah, Arya, I'm thinking Jamie as well. If Peter were to run away from home, he would probably want to run away to Central Park rather than the Met. But he is educated too, so maybe the Met would interest him. All right, everybody. So, your homework is to read chapters 4 through 6. 4, 5, and 6 for Friday. Chapters 4 through 6 for Friday. And if you're watching the recording, as I said, I'm sorry you couldn't make it to class. We'll figure that out. But hopefully I'll see you on Friday. And if you have any questions or thoughts, do send me an email. All right, everybody. I'll talk to you guys on Friday. Oh, and yeah, Sigourney, your book hasn't come in yet. Do you know when you're going to get it? Okay. So if you do get it, let me know. I think I'll be able to put together the chapter. I've got to cut and paste and do some things, and I'll try to do that by tonight. But if you do get it, would you or your mom send me an email to let me know? But otherwise, I'll try it tonight, or if not tonight, tomorrow morning. All right, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.